Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Lanes Podcast. Thank you for having another listen, guys. Just before we get into the show, just want to talk to you about a new sponsor that's come on board, Books and Gifts Direct. Books and Gifts Direct is Australia's largest direct seller of books and gifts. They sell their products in lunchrooms, reception desks, and they are in more than 25,000 workplaces in Australia. Their books and gifts sell up to 70% off recommended retail price, and as the largest direct seller of books and gifts across Australia, they have a strong buying power, and without the overheads of a shop front, they can afford to pass on significant savings. So guys, if you want to take a look at this, the link will be below in the description. But guys, let's not waste any more time. Let's get straight into the show. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Lanes Podcast. On today's episode, a couple teams and players that are early in the preseason that I'm really looking forward to, and just a couple storylines that I'm going to talk about just based on the preseason so far and heading into the 2021-2022 NBA season. Guys, I'm looking really forward to this. So guys, let's not waste any more time. Let's get straight into the show. Welcome to another episode of the Lanes Podcast. Alright guys, welcome back to the show. So, the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to break it up into teams that I found really interesting, that I found positive. A couple players that I thought that I had a couple good starting preseason and that could roll into their regular season, and then just some storylines that have been going on within the NBA. Basically, a little bit of a wrap up of the NBA so far. But guys, first team I want to talk about in the preseason, and it's going to be a team that's going to get a lot of, I would say they're going to get a lot of popularity, but they're going to get a lot of press. And that's Chicago Bulls. And watching their preseason game, I was impressed. But what I was really impressed was then. There's a little doco series going on YouTube right now that I watched. I'm not too sure what it's called, Running with the Bulls, something like that, off the top of my head. But one of my good mates, Coach, the hot intern, he's been on this show a lot of times. He showed me it, Chrissy. He said, mate, have a look at this. And I watched it. I was really impressed with what they're trying to build in Chicago. And I actually liked that the acquisitions they made more and more the more I watch it. And obviously that's going to do that because, they're going to make you want to be, a popular team for them, but I just actually really like watching what Chicago's building, and I think they probably, if you ask me now, I think they had the best free agency. They didn't sign a heap of players, but the players they signed, I think Lonzo Ball is a great fit next to Zach LaVine. It's a player that it's a person where Zach LaVine will trust him. He's a defensive orientated guard too, and I think that's really important for Zach LaVine because he needs someone that's a good defender who can take a little bit of pressure off him. Because I'm not saying Zach LaVine's a gun defender, but I think sometimes he might have had to defend the best player just based on the fact that he is the best player on their team and they want him to be a defender. So I'll say, go defend the best player. And that's not his role. At the moment, he's a superstar scorer. I think he's a superstar scorer. Based on the Olympics, if he was one of the USA teams finishing 5, and you look at that team of 12, there's a lot of all-stars on that team. There's a lot of good players on that team. And he was, kind of putting out someone like Chris Middleton, who I had previous remarks about, but at the end of the day, he's a champion and I'm not. But, he played more minutes over him. Like, their finishing 5 was KD, of course, himself, Zach LaVine, Devin Booker, Drew Holiday, and I'm not too sure off the top of my head, but there's someone I'm obviously forgetting, but and then I would say Jason Tatum that they finished with. So he's in that 5. So it just shows you how important he is. And then I think that Lonzo, if he gets that shooting, which he has been previous seasons, and a lot of people actually underestimate how good of a shooter this guy is, that's a massive weapon for them because when Zach LaVine drives into the paint, defense collapses on him, the help's there, he can just bang, he can kick to Lonzo, and he knows he's going to score it. Now, he's a great shooter from the corner, 3-point percentage, very high, one of the best in the league. And 2 years ago, you wouldn't say that. And I do keep coming back to that, but you just wouldn't say that with Lonzo. His shot was whack, it was broken. To be honest, probably people in the NBL were better shooters than him, and that's just a fact. But for him to basically re-change his shot, I'm super impressed by him. I just think that a lot of people realize that he might not be this franchise-changing player, but the player he is now, that's probably, if you ask me, he could probably have a chance at being an all-star this year in the East. And it is depending on how good the Chicago Bulls go. If they can get into that top 4, maybe they can warrant for a person to be, or a player to have 2 positions in the East. But I just think he could possibly be an all-star. And I actually really like that team. Also, you got DeMar DeRozan, who's just a great veteran presence for this team too. I think it's important for Zach LaVine to have him because he kind of had a career like Zach LaVine, a high-flying athlete, a really good shooter in the mid-range. Zach's a much better shooter in the 3-point percentage, but very similar style players. And I think he can, show him the ropes and show him how to be a consistent, star player. And I think DeMar DeRozan is going to have a lot of reinvigoration this season, a lot of revitalized energy. He hasn't played in the playoffs for the past couple of years, and I think that's something at the end of the day he just wants to be at. And I think he saw Chicago where he can still be a key part, but he can also be, a person that has a distinctive say in their playoff predictions, their playoff seedings. And I think at the end of the day, that's all you want to be as a player. If you can help your team in a positive direction, of course you want to do that. And then I also really like Alex Caruso signing. I think he's such an underrated player. I think he'll finish games for them. I think you can see most likely, depending on, matchup. So say, for example, if they're going to versus Phoenix Suns, if they had to versus Phoenix Suns, in a playoff matchup, they'd match up pretty well because obviously Vooch, they'd cancel each other out, even though I think that Aiden's a much better defender than Vucevic. Vucevic is a very good offensive player. He's got a lot of good touch. Very, very fundamentally sound player. All-star caliber player, right? Then you've got Patrick Williams, Jay Crowder. They kind of cancel each other out if you ask me. You got DeMar, Mikal Bridges. I'll still take DeMar right now. Zach LaVine, Devin Booker. That could be based on the day who has a better series. I would still take Devin Booker right now. And then you got Chris Paul, Lonzo. Obviously, you take Chris Paul, but that's kind of like a matchup for me where they're pretty sound on all five positions. So I think that's a team. And then you have possibly Alex Caruso to start to play instead of Vucevic. If they have to go small, you can put Pat Williams at that 5. But I still think that they've got a really young, exuberant team, and then they have 2 or 3 really key veteran pieces in DeMar and Vucevic, and I'm really impressed on them. I think that their GM and, I think Billy Donovan's going to get a lot out of them too, because I really, really like Chicago the more I watch them, and I think that they, can definitely be that. I don't know if they can be top 4. I think top 4 is like the 4th spot's attainable. I think that top 3 of Milwaukee, Miami, and Brooklyn, I think that's pretty set. But I think top 4 is attainable for them, and I'd really like to see what they can do. And if it wouldn't shock me if they come 4th and they get that 4th position. I do want to see them be a little bit more biased on the trade market. Try to go get, because they got off the bench Alex Caruso, Kobe White. Tony Bradley's going to come off the bench, possibly be a center position for them. But I still think they need a power forward, and I think that would be, off the top of my head, if I'm not mistaken, they don't really have a power forward off the top of my head that's a backup. I will have a look at it, but I think that for them, it's going to be a nice season if you're a Chicago Bulls fan. I think you actually have a sense of direction and a sense of, shit, we can actually be pretty good this season, and it's something that Chicago hasn't had for a long time, and I think all the moves they've made have been the right moves, and yet, at the moment, they don't really have a backup 4, so I think that's a position that they can go out and get, but at the moment, I actually really like the team. Matt Thomas too. He can be like a kiddies Duncan Robinson. If you don't know him, he's a very, very good shooter. And I think someone like a Billy Donovan can get a lot out of him. And I just think that, the more I watch them, the more I think they're a definite playoff lock. And, going back to my previous top 15 power rankings, my power rankings, I don't think they were in the 15. I think they were 16th, if I'm not mistaken, just because I hadn't seen what they're like. But right now, I'm very, very high on them. Another team I want to talk about that I was always super high on, but it just proved to me that how good they're going to be, and that is the Miami Heat. Now, the Miami Heat, the game I watched, they played without Jimmy Butler, and they started Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero, to me, looks like he will possibly push Duncan Robinson out of that starting lineup, and if he can do that, I think it takes Miami to a whole new level, because I think if Tyler Hero can be that player that is consistent, I think, for me, he had Kyle Kuzma vibes, just based on the fact that people underestimate how good of a player Kyle Kuzma is. He's actually a decent player. He was a 6th, 7th man on a championship roster team. So he's a good player. Don't get it twisted. But I just thought he could, maybe he's a little bit of height gets to his head, and I thought that he just would have put basketball on the back burner. But no, I really like what I saw from Tyler Hero. That floater game is really, really clean, and he's a smooth, fluent player too. He's always had that smooth fluency about him, and he's got it back. And I think that if they have him. Imagine this closing lineup of Kyle Lowry, Tyler, Jimmy, Bam, PJ Tucker. That is defensively 4 out of those 5 defensive dogs, and you have a bit of a liability at the moment in Tyler Hero, but he'll have to work hard on defense to play with those boys. So I think that, the more I watch Miami, I think if they can get Milwaukee in the second round, I think they can beat Milwaukee, and I do think they can beat Brooklyn. Now, at the moment, it'd be about a 20% chance they can beat Brooklyn, just based on the fact that you're just not too sure what happens. Brooklyn might not, work out. I highly doubt it, because they look pretty kiddies right now. But I actually think Miami might be the dark horse of the East, and I'm going to put that, I'm going to write that. So I'm going to put, that out to existence. And I want you guys to really, if you guys don't think Miami's that good, actually watch what they do. Look at their roster. Their roster is deep, stacked, and it's got a little bit of youth, but it's still got that veteran presence. Another player that I really like, Gabe Vincent. If you guys don't know who he is, captain of the Nigerian team in the Olympics this past season, he can really play. I think he's going to be the backup point guard for them, and it's kind of like a Duncan Robinson story. They kind of brought him through the G League, nurtured him, developed him, and I think Miami have the best development right now in the NBA of players that are undrafted, because you look at it, Duncan Robinson, Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, I believe, all undrafted, and all players that will possibly play in their rotation. So you look at that, you got 3 players that, PJ Tucker, he's undrafted, but they did sign him, but there's 4 or 5 of their players undrafted in their key rotation. So they're able to, I'm not too sure what the word is, target a player, identify. They're able to identify talent, even if it's drafted or not, nurture them, develop them, and make them to an NBA caliber player. And I think that's so unnoticed in the NBA. Another team that is good at it is Golden State. I still think Golden State have produced players like Chris Boucher, Quinn Cook, Damian Lee at the moment, good players that, NBA caliber players that have key rotational pieces. So I think that it's really, really good to see Miami do that. And I just think that Miami's going to be really, really good. Eastern Conference Finals is not a shock for me if they make it, because I think a lot of people already got Brooklyn, Milwaukee, and so you could, but so you should. At the moment, I'd still go out, but I wouldn't be shocked if Miami gets there. And I wouldn't be shocked if they don't make it. They're going to take either team to a 7-game series, Milwaukee or Brooklyn. And I think it can definitely be whoever versus Miami might lose in that conference finals. So I really, really like Miami. A couple players that I'm actually really, really positive, I have positive reviews about right now. And I'm going to talk about Josh Giddey for just off the top of my head, off the bat, because he deserves it. 18 points in preseason. What the biggest thing I realised was he's strong enough to play in the NBA, but he's also fast enough to play in the NBA. And I thought those were going to be the 2 things that he might have struggles with, but he crossed Kelly Oubre up pretty well. I knew his vision was always going to be great. Kitty's vision. He's probably got the best vision out of all draft players to get drafted this past season. That's a big statement. You can believe it or not. I believe that. I believe his vision is second to none. I believe a lot of Australian players have great vision because they play basketball the right way. They're getting taught split kick at a young age, and they all have to use those. They all have to use their passing because they're not just dominant one-on-one players that can just go get a bucket. So I do think that Josh Giddey has the best vision in the league, but him crossing up Kelly Oubre and then him getting that board and then getting the air one on Miles Plumlee, 2 plays for me that just showed to me that he can really be a key player in this team, and he's going to start. He's going to start for OKC, and OKC aren't going to be good. But if you want to be a purist of watching basketball and watching key people develop and grow, watch OKC. Don't watch all of their games. Some of their games they might get blown out just because they're not good enough. But I think their coach, Mark Dignall, I'm not too sure how to pronounce it, he's doing a good job with that team. And I don't care whatever their win-loss record is, he's doing a good job. He's developing key players. Shea's going to be another player that has a great stat season. And I just think that Oklahoma City Thunder in 5 years' time will be a powerhouse in the NBA if they keep going like this. Because I think Josh Giddey's, for me, he's a solid blue chip player. He, for me, has basically, I think, kind of like a Lonzo Ball projection. Not Melo, Lonzo. I think he's going to be a good player. Not a solid defender, but a good 3-point shooter, good vision, can start breaks. I don't think he's athletically built like Lonzo, but I still think that he has got, a little bit of athleticism, sneaky athleticism, and I think that he can have a career projection, kind of like Alonzo right now. He keeps getting better and better with age, and he's going to be a player that people want to play with, and that's something that's really, really important. I think that 6th position, he might not turn into an all-star, but he'll turn into a really, really seasoned NBA player. I think he's got Lonzo Ball, Ricky Rubio vibes. And at the end of the day, those 2 players are very, very good players. And I don't care what anybody says. If someone said to me, hey, if you can have a career like Ricky Rubio or Lonzo Ball, I'd take that straight away because they're players that get paid in this NBA. And they're players that have been key parts of their team. And even though Ricky Rubio is getting a bit older, he was a key part in teams. Utah, starting point guard. They get into the 2nd round. I just think that Josh Giddey has a lot of potential. I hope he can become an all-star player because I think it will just prove how good the NBA Global Academy is, but how good Australian players are. And I just think it's, The next player in waiting, Dyson Daniels, if you don't know who that is, he's going to be a player that's gone to the G League Ignite. Watch him. He'll be another Aussie player getting drafted. Not too sure where he'll go at the moment. I don't really know the projections, but he's going to be another player. And I just think there's going to be more and more players from Australia that are going to make the NBA. But I think Josh Giddey, for me, he has impressed me from the get-go. Another player that has impressed me is Davion Mitchell from the Sacramento Kings. And I'm not going to lie, I don't watch Sacramento, and I'm not probably going to watch a lot of Sacramento before I watch that game. Now I might watch Sacramento because I like Tyrese Halliburton a lot. De'Aaron Fox, for me, if he played at any other team, he'd most likely be an all-star. Marvin Bagley, if he can get it together, he's a talented player. And then Davion Mitchell is a dead-set pest. He is a pest on the floor. No one could score against him. He had one really, really good game, I thought, against Paul George. Even though Paul George gets his points, he gets his money. Davion Mitchell made it hard for him. And there's a reason, they call him Off Night, and it might be the best nickname, I think, in the NBA right now, Off Night, because he's going to put some players he's going to make players really work for their baskets. And I really, really like watching him. I think he's a coach's dream player. He's not very big, but I think if he was 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", he'd probably be an all NBA. He might be from the get-go an all NBA player, but an all NBA, defensive player of the year possibly, or all NBA defensive great, because he's able to just lock down on defense. And I'm really, really impressed with him. I'm not going to say that I'll watch a heap of Sacramento, but I will tune in because I do like the little three-guard front they're going to do of De'Aaron Fox, Tyrese Halliburton, and Davion Mitchell. I'm not too sure how Tyrese Halliburton will go defensively because he'll probably have to defend bigger players like a wings. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I just liked Davion Mitchell from the get-go. I thought he's had some really, really nice pieces, nice touches. And I just thought that the more I look at Sacramento, the more I actually liking them. And I hope they can go all right because at the end of the day, no franchise clubs deserves to just get belted every season. Like, it's not fun. You know what I mean? It's not fun to get beaten every season, and those fans deserve much better. So I just think hopefully Sacramento can pull it together. But I'm actually really liking Davion Mitchell right now. Now I'm going to move on to a little bit of the storylines in the NBA. And for me, Kyrie Irving, if he does get vaccinated. I think when push comes to shove, it's going to be tough if he keeps losing all that money. I think that's one big thing. And I think if any player doesn't really care, it's Kyrie. But I think if his players want him to get vaccinated, I think he'll do it. And I just think it might be the best thing. It's obviously the best thing for Brooklyn Nets if he gets the vaccination, because the more games they play, the better. But at the end of the day, his decision, pro-choice, up to him what he wants to do. I think he'll probably get vaccinated. People say he's pretty optimistic. I just think he will, just based on the fact that if he gets vaccinated, they're the favourites. If they stay healthy, they will win the championship in my eyes. I don't think anyone can beat them. I just think they're too offensively great. There's only three teams in my eyes that could beat them. That is Miami, Milwaukee, and the Lakers at the moment. I still think Golden State can be a smoky to get to the finals, but I don't know if they can beat them. But I just think that, if Kyrie wants to win a championship without LeBron, I know it's not going to be the same because he's still got KD and James Harden, who, at the end of the day, they're probably the two of the best offensive players in the world ever, if you ask me. I think James Harden, I'm not a massive fan on him because his play style's not me, but as just a one-on-one bucket getter, I think him, KD, Kyrie, it's funny, I just named three players, they all play on the same team. Probably a LeBron James, Damian Lillard, there's some tough play. Luka Doncic, they're tough to guard. Steph Curry too, there's so many players, but they're probably three of the most, I think they're the three best players to just go out and get you a bucket at any time. Especially James Harden, with that left to right, that crossover, that way he can move his body, he can get his body into your body and create the contact. He's a purist basketball player at the end of the day. But I think at the end of the day, sorry, going on a tangent there, Kyrie Irving, if he gets vaccinated, I do think it's a smart option just based on basketball-wise. But at the end of the day, if he doesn't want to get it, it's his decision. You can't push someone to get a vaccination. You just can't. Next topic I will talk about, Ben Simmons. Now, this guy's doing my head in more and more. I did see a report from Basketball Forever. They reported that Ben Simmons might backflip and come back and play for Philadelphia just based on the fact that he doesn't want to lose all this money. Now, this is funny because at the end of the day, now he's backflipping. So at the end of the day, you wanted to stand and you wanted to be strong, stand in your values. So I'm not going to play for him. I'm never going to play for him again. Now, because you're going to lose all this money, oh, no, I'll come back and play. Make your decision, mate. Like, at the end of the day, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. But don't whinge and cry because you're going to lose all this money. I'm not a fan of it. I don't like what's happening. I don't like that he can just go out and say, I'm not playing, and just hold a franchise hostage. Philadelphia, I don't care what you do. Trade him to anywhere you want. Get the best package for you. Go trade him to wherever he doesn't want to go. Say his last destination is Oklahoma City. Trade him to OKC if you can. Just trade him. Get him off your cap. Get him off your books. He is hurting your club, your franchise, and it's just not good for anyone. It's no good for any party. Ben Simmons, he doesn't want to be there. Go get traded. But don't act like this. Go to training camp. Do what you have to do. It'll make him more attractive to get traded. Because at the end of the day, who wants this guy now where he's just acting like this? If I'm a GM of a club, I don't want this. I don't want Ben Simmons on my team right now. I don't care how good he is. I don't want someone that can act like this, who can just flick a switch like, I don't want to play for you. With Philadelphia, let him do his rehab. Let him play without developing a jump shot. They let him do that. There's not a lot of clubs that will just let people do that. So I'm not a fan of what's happening there. Please, for both parties, for the NBA, get traded. Trade him. He doesn't want to get traded. He wants to come back. So if you want to come back, you're going to have to say sorry to all your players, the fans, the club, because what you're doing is wrong. It's just wrong. I'm not a fan of it. I don't care. It's not a clutch thing. It's a him thing. Because you want to act like this, act like it, but don't come back and just act like you want to come back. Now, I don't know the full story. I don't know it. I don't understand. I don't, because I'm not in Philadelphia. I'm not in Ben Simmons' camp. But you don't act like this. Now, I will agree on the fact that Doc Rivers, if your coach comes out and says, I don't know if I can win Ben Simmons, that is a red flag. That's something that Philadelphia shouldn't do. But he's acting far worse than what Philadelphia have. And I don't care. You just don't do that. It's hurting your reputation. It's hurting you as a brand. It's hurting you as your marketability. And at the end of the day, if you're worried about your money, you're not going to get it. You're going to have to go back to Philadelphia, man. Like, it's just not a fan of the way that people can act. And it's just, he's going to get his way. He's going to get traded. And same thing with James Harden. I wasn't a fan of the way James Harden got traded and how that happened. So for me, that Ben Simmons, it just leaves a sour taste in my mouth. And I'm not a fan. I'm just not a fan. And it's just annoying. It's just annoying to be an NBA fan. Like, imagine if you're a Philadelphia fan. Like, you'd just be hating what's happening. Like, it's just shit. But yeah, I'm going to go on. A couple other NBA news. If you are unvaccinated in NBA as a player and you go to Toronto and you break COVID protocols, you could possibly go to jail. Like, that is a big thing for me. Like, if I'm unvaccinated, man, I'm not doing anything. I'm going to my room. I'm doing nothing. And because it's a different country. It's not America. It's Canada. Canada don't give a fuck. They don't mess around, obviously. You could face up to 6 months prison time or massive, massive penalty fines in monetary value. I don't like that. I'm not a fan of that. So that's a big one for me. And then obviously the second biggest one coming out today, NBA will not test players for marijuana. Now, I did see the NFL do that, and that had a very positive reaction. At the end of the day, like, Matt Barnes has come out and said that, most people in the NBA smoke weed. So, like, I don't know. I don't think it's a big deal. Like, I personally don't really care what anyone does. It's their choice. And at the end of the day, it's legal in America in, like, most states anyway. So it doesn't really matter. Like, it's not a big deal. So I just think at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, it doesn't really matter. If it helps players with, relaxing, or it helps players with, pain management, just, I don't know. At the end of the day, if it's allowed, you can do it. It's up to you. So I'm not a big warrior. I don't really care. I think it's a move that is pro players, and it's pro help. It's like obviously NBA is a bit of a players league. It's pro players league. It's a massive, tick for them, because if they came out and banned it, which it has been, I just don't think that people really would have cared. But it is a pretty big, monumental move in the NBA. But I don't really care. It's up to them. But guys, that is this episode for today. Just a quick one, just coming in. There will be plenty of NBA podcasts coming on in the future. There's going to be a lot of good stuff. Opening night, I cannot wait. It's about 12 days now. We got a cracker, and you got Brooklyn, Milwaukee, I believe, and then you've got LA, and then the Golden State Warriors. I'm looking more forward to LA Golden State Warriors. That's something that's going to be kiddies, if you ask me. But guys, that's today's episode. Thank you for listening. You will hear a little bit more right now. But guys, make sure you like, share, and subscribe all the content that is coming your way. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Lanes Podcast. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe all the content that's coming your way. Hit us up on Instagram at LanesMedia_, all under capitalized letters. Thanks for listening, guys, but most importantly, have a great day.